Reginald, how are we doing? Week 9, college football show. How you been?
Doing great, doing great. Week 9. I like these games.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. We said last week was kind of a snooze fest with a lot of the games. Turned out that way. There wasn't much action. We had Oklahoma almost blew one to Kansas, but other than that, it's pretty boring. But this week, it's definitely going to be less boring. We'll say that.
This might be my most exciting week, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll start with the first big game of the week. One of the biggest games in the Big Ten all year, Michigan and Michigan State, two teams that very similar. They really haven't played anybody, but they haven't lost to anybody, and that matters more. You play who's on your schedule, and they still haven't been beaten. The game is at Michigan State, and Michigan's laying 4. I'm going to take Michigan State in this game, just because they're two very similar teams. Michigan State's biggest issue is in their secondary, but Michigan can't throw the ball. I think this is a coin flip game, and if you get 4 points with it, I'll just take the underdog at home. So I'll take Michigan State.
100%. I actually have to agree with you. I think these two teams are so, they're so close together. It's going to be one of those games, and Michigan State is at home, so I'll give it to them.
Yeah. And also, this is the game to get the privilege of getting blown out by Ohio State in a couple weeks.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's important because it's a big rivalry game in the state of Michigan. But we both know these two teams are not the best team in their conference, and we'll see.
You said you don't think Michigan should be undefeated right now, right?
Well, they haven't played anybody. I don't know who should have beat them. They really haven't played anybody.
Or ranked number 6.
Yeah, no, but at the same time though, this year, more than any year I can remember, there's not a lot of great teams.
Yeah.
So I don't really look at it that way. This team shouldn't be ranked there, because in reality, all these teams are kind of pretty similar. Between we'll say right around where Michigan is to number 20. All those teams are pretty similar right now.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on. Speaking of teams that are similar, we got Iowa, who this game is just this line that fascinates me, because we had one of these last week where a top 10 team was significant underdogs. I wouldn't say 3.5 significant underdogs, but Iowa State was 7-point favorites against Oklahoma State last week, and Oklahoma State covered, but Iowa State won the game. And do you see something similar here where maybe Vegas knows something we don't know, that Wisconsin is favored against a top 10 team right here?
Give me Iowa, man. I'm not big on Wisconsin. I don't think they're good at all. And I really think Iowa is going to, I think Iowa is definitely going to cover spread.
Yeah, Wisconsin's offense stinks. It has for a while. It hasn't got. I mean, it's played a little better the last couple of weeks. I just feel like the gambling instincts in me says to take Wisconsin here, because the line's so weird. But I would never bet on Wisconsin in this instance. I will say Iowa's kind of in that Michigan and Michigan State category where I still don't know if they're that good. They're just a product of their schedule being a little light in the beginning of the season. They did beat Iowa State, but other than that, I mean, I just don't think Iowa's that good of a team.
I think Iowa has a problem running the ball.
Yeah, they got a lot of issues. I mean, there's a lot of flawed teams this year, but would I be surprised if Iowa won this game? Of course not, but we'll see.
Okay.
All right, moving on. This is a big one. Number 1 team in the nation, playing in Jacksonville against the Florida Gators. What do you like here?
Well, I'm definitely going to be in attendance of that game tomorrow. And although my Gators have let me down a couple times, I like them. I think Georgia's going to win, but I think it's going to be a close game. Because
aren't they starting? Are they going to start Richard? What's that guy's name?
He's the only chance we have. Anthony Richardson,
Yeah, Richardson, that guy, he's legit.
only chance. Do I think Georgia's gonna win? Realistically, yes. Betting odds, yes. Obviously, yes. Do I think it's gonna be a close game? Yes. So I'm taking Florida on the spread.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think like you can't run through this gauntlet of a Georgia schedule and not look human one time. Like every game's been just a massacre, and
Yeah.
it just feels like there's going to be a spot where they look human. And will they win the game? As we said, yeah, probably. But
Who
if you're
better
going to get 14 points,
human? Yeah, who better to make him look human than Florida?
yeah, I mean Florida. I don't know. They've had some not great performances, as you know, but we'll see. I mean, that Florida pushed Alabama to the brink, but then they had a tough loss against LSU and the tough loss to Kentucky.
Yeah.
But both of those were on the road. This one's a neutral site, as we all know. But I don't know. I just think 14 points is too much. I would take Florida here, but I think Georgia still wins the game. I still think Georgia's the best team. Now, here's a question that someone asked me this week, and I've been trying to think about the answer with the playoff. So right now, the four teams, the top four right now is Georgia, Cincinnati, Alabama, and Ohio State, right? Or no, Oklahoma. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Georgia's going to have to play Alabama, right? And if Alabama beats Georgia, that's two spots right there to Alabama and Alabama and Georgia. The question is, if Georgia beats Alabama, would you rather take 2-loss Alabama and have them play Georgia again in the playoff, or undefeated Cincinnati? Who do you think would be more deserving of that final spot?
Bama.
But wouldn't you think that that's like, why would they just have them play them again? Like that would be so stupid. Like,
I can see where you're coming from, but I just think that's a more exciting game to watch.
Well, yeah, obviously, but if you're gonna put what's the point of even playing that game then if they're both gonna be in anyway? I feel like you have to have some something to that game of Georgia and Alabama, and if Alabama loses, I think they should be done. And obviously, everyone knows Alabama has a better chance of beating Georgia than Cincinnati does. But I just think to help preserve somewhat these games actually matter, I think you would have to put Cincinnati.
Yeah, agreed.
I do also think that there's more hurdles for Cincinnati, even if that plays out if a team in the ACC goes undefeated or Oregon wins out. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I'd be curious to see what they would do because everything in the past says that they would take Alabama in that spot. But I don't know. I think I would take Cincinnati if I had to make the decision. And I know that they're going to call me and say, hey, Nick, who do you want in that final spot, Alabama or Cincinnati? And I'm going to tell them, but we'll see. I don't know. All right, sticking in the SEC, we'll move on. This is an interesting game. We have Bo Nix, Matt Corral, Auburn, and Ole Miss. Who do you like here?
Honestly, I like Ole Miss.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about this game. It just feels like the spot where Bo Nix lets you down because it feels like whenever he goes on a good run of playing a couple good games, that's when his awful game comes. I know this game's at home for them at night. It shouldn't be, and Ole Miss's defense is a travesty.
Yeah, and honestly, Ole Miss defense is a travesty, but their offense,
it's loaded. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And Matt Corral could win the Heisman. That's another thing to keep an eye on is who's going to emerge as the Heisman Trophy favorite because as of right now, there's nobody. But yeah, I would lean Ole Miss here also just because I'm so scared of Bo Nix in a game like this that he's just not going to show up because there's been so many times where he didn't show up. Yeah, I'll take Auburn. Or I'll take Ole Miss. Sorry, on the road. They did it a couple weeks ago against Tennessee. I'll do it again. Why not? All right, last game of the day. We got Ohio State and Penn State in the shoe. Penn State coming off the 9 overtime loss to Illinois. Now, I'm going to start this one by saying I love Penn State this week, plus 18.5.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I don't
I
think
love them.
Ohio State. Yeah, I love them. I love Penn State for 18.5.
The reason being, Ohio State played their best game of the year last week, and Penn State played their worst game of the year last week. So you're getting Penn State at its low point, and you're getting Ohio State at its high point. So that's when you have to take Penn State. Because let's say Penn State wins that game, even if they win in double overtime, this line is probably 14.
Yeah.
But instead, it's 18 because they lost, because they couldn't get a 2-point conversion. I don't know. I love Penn State here.
I like Penn State a lot. Do I think Ohio State is going to win? Yeah. Do I think they're going to cover the spread? No.
Yeah. And Penn State in the past, I mean, no one's really given Ohio State issues in the Big Ten, as we know. But I don't know. Just it feels like I know this game's at Ohio State. I just feel like if there's one team that's given Ohio State issues in the Big Ten, it's been Penn State. They had the Saquon Barkley game. That was a close game. At Penn State, I remember they blocked the field goal to win the game. I think that was also when Barkley was there. But they just tend to – I mean, they never beat them. They beat them only a handful of times since 2010. But if there's one team I trust in the Big Ten to somewhat keep it close against Ohio State, it's Penn State. And granted, Ohio State could still win this game by 17 points. And it goes both ways.
I 100% agree with you. I like Penn State plus 18.5 here. I think they're going to keep it closer. I think Ohio State is going to win by somewhere between 14 to 16.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, last week was one of the best performances we've seen from them in a while, where they scored every time they touched the ball in the first half in the game.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say that they're going to do that against, because Penn State's defense is pretty good. Even in their losses, they've looked pretty good.
You know what I think is? You know what I think? This is one of those weird spreads that I think is just that high just because of how Ohio State is destroying everybody points.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it is. This is the high point of Ohio State. And you know what? If this game's close, I will be taking Ohio State next week, because everyone's going to overreact to,
exactly.
Oh, it was a close game against Penn State. No, Ohio State's still the king of the Big Ten. They will be for a while. It's just in this spot, I like Penn State. So if you have one lock out of these games, what would you say it is? Because me personally, I think it's got to be Penn State. Like, I don't know.
My lock is going to be Florida.
So we're rolling with a couple big underdogs this Saturday. I mean, should be a great week. We'll learn a lot about these teams. We'll learn a lot about Michigan State. I think we'll learn a lot about Auburn. I mean, Auburn's had a good run here the last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Could they maybe challenge Alabama at the end of the season? We'll see. I don't know. It should be an interesting Saturday. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully the picks hit this week.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. That was fun. See you again next week. We're nearing the end of the season. It's flying by. But yeah, it was a good show there, Reginald.
All right. See you, Nick.